Hare Krishna. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Sa Padantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vikshakan Vitamscha Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Iti Namine Shri Varshabhai Devi Daitaya Kripabde Krishna Sambandha Vibhyana Daine Prabhave Namaha Madhuri Ujjvala Premadhya Shri Rupanuga Bhaktida Shri Gaura Karuna Shakti Vigrahaya Namastute Namaste Gauravani Shri Murtaye Dinatarine Rupanuga Virudapa Apadantantadantvaharine Nama Gaura Kishoraya Sakshat Vairagya Murtaye Vipralambara Sambodhe Kvadambujayate Namaha Namo Bhakti Vinodaya Satchitananda Namine Gaura Shakti Swarupaya Rupanuga Varayate Gaurvir Babu Mistvam Nirdasta Sajjana Priya Vaishnava Sarvabhoma Shri Shri Jagannathayate Namaha Tvancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhuvya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Padayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namine Gurtise Namaha Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Saktikam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopeka Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Jayatam Soto Pango Mama Madhe Matargati Mat Sarvasya Padambojo Shri Radha Madana Mohano Divyad Vrindaranya Kalpa Drumadaha Srimad Ratnagara Simhasanavstutau Srimad Radha Shila Govinda Devo Prishtalibi Sevyamano Smarami Srimad Rasara Sarambi Vamsi Vatatatasita Arshanvanu Swanirgopi Shri Gopinatha Sdeshtunaha Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vindavaneshwari Vishnavanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudirayet Shinvatam Swakata Krishna Punya Sravana Kirtana Hridiyantasto Hi Abhadrani Vidunote Shruhatsatam Nashtaprayashu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Slokir Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. Hare Krishna and welcome all after a long break.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Good to hear you after a long break.
Yes, I am also excited to meet all of you.
Yeah.
So it has been a long time since we have our last session. So thank you for joining. So let's begin with a brief overview of what we have been doing in the last class. And I'll just give a summary, quick summary of chapter 13, which we started in the previous sessions. So chapter 13 is discussing about Dhrtarastra quits home. So in this chapter, in the beginning, Vidura is been shown that Vidura is returning from a pilgrimage. That means he has gone to the pilgrimage some years ago, which is about 35 years ago. He went to the pilgrimage, and then he returns back. So that is what is discussed in verse number 1 to 7. Vidura returns home to Hastinapur from a pilgrimage. So what was his purpose of returning? His purpose was to help his elder brother Dhrtarastra, who was stuck in his in the material world, and we all are stuck. So similarly, a sadhu can help us to come out of that situation when we are stuck in material consciousness. So this is what this chapter is about, and it's a very important chapter because it teaches us so many important lessons. And particularly, this is talking about the renunciation towards our old age. So this renunciation doesn't happen overnight. It takes a lot of time and a lot of preparation. About Dhrtarastra quitting home, but in a way, it is a chapter which actually prepares us to detach from the material world. So that's why this chapter is very, very significant in Srimad Bhagavatam, particularly for all the devotees who are trying to practice Krishna consciousness. So the first verse is talking about that Vidura returns to Hastinapur having learned about the goal of life, which is self-realization, from Maitreya, which he learned during his pilgrimage. So Vidura actually went to the pilgrimage after the incidents of Krishna showing the Virat Rupa in the assembly hall. So when Krishna came to Hastinapur for his, he wanted to give a last chance to the sons of Dhrtarastra so that the war doesn't happen. So that was Krishna's plan. But Duryodhana, he didn't agree to the suggestions of Lord Krishna, and he wanted to actually tie up Lord Krishna. So in that case, what happens? Krishna shows his universal form, and then after that incidents happen, then Vidura, tells Dhritarashtra that Duryodhana is a disgrace to the family. And upon hearing this from Vidura, he actually chastises and he insults Vidura, and he asks him to get out of the kingdom. So that time Vidura leaves the palace to purify himself. That was his purpose. So then what happens when he goes to the pilgrimage place? He lives like a mendicant for many, many years. And then finally he meets Uddhava. And then when he meets Uddhava, he hears from Uddhava that Krishna has left this planet. And then he heard that before Krishna leaving the planet, he instructed Uddhava Gita to Uddhava. So he wanted to hear more about that. But Uddhava, being younger to Vidura, he said it's not appropriate to hear from him. Plus Krishna had given him a service. A service was to go to Badrikashram and help the sages in Badrikashram. That was a service given by Krishna. So Krishna requested him to go there. So he said that Maitreya was also hearing the discussion. When the discussion between Krishna and Uddhava was going on, Maitreya Rishi was present there. And he was a Jnani, but after hearing the conversation between Krishna and Uddhava, he became a Bhakta, he became a devotee. And also Maitreya Rishi was elderly compared to Vidura. So he says, please go to Maitreya Rishi, which is about 100 kilometers away from that point where they were discussing all this. So please go there and hear from him. So then he goes to Maitreya Rishi and he hears, he asks many questions. So the question answers between Maitreya Rishi and Vidura is the main discussion in Canto 3 and Canto 4. That compromises their discussion. And after hearing all these topics from Maitreya Rishi, Vidura, he decided to come back to Hastinapur. And the sole purpose of coming back to Hastinapur is to help his elder brother, Dhritarashtra, who was stuck in this kingly life at Hastinapur. So therefore he returns. So this chapter is discussing that particular point where Vidura will come here and he wakes up Dhrtarastra, and wakes up after waking him up, in the sense waking up from the sleeping condition. Not he was not literally sleeping, but he was in Maya. He was trapped in Maya. So in order to cut all his attachment, he comes up and then he uses very harsh language, and that helps Dhritarashtra to detach. And we'll see at the end of the chapter, Dhritarashtra leaves the kingdom in the middle of the night along with Vidur and along with Gandhari, and then at last he attains success of the human form of life. So that is what is the discussion over here. So we'll go through this chapter, verse by verse, to understand what happened. So far we are in verse number 50. Last time we completed verse 14, so I'll just give a quick summary. And then in verse 2 we have discussed that having become established in loving devotional service to Krishna, Vidura retired from asking question to Maitreya. So this is the verse 2. And then verse 3 to 5, seeing Vidura, so then Vidura comes back to Hastinapur, and then when he comes, the devotees, they have not heard of Vidura, who was very dear to them. For the Pandavas, he had practically saved the Pandavas from all the ill treatment that was going on the Pandavas by Dhritarashtra and his company. So Vidura and Bhishma, they were actually protectors of the Pandavas. So they were very dear to the Pandavas. So when the Pandavas saw Vidura, so seeing Vidura, Maharaj Yudhishthir, Kunti and other hurried to receive him as if regaining their consciousness. After a long time, they exchange obeisances and welcome each other with embraces. So this is verse 3 to 5. And then they cried out of affection due to anxieties and long separation. Maharaj Yudhishthir then offered a sit and a reception. So they received Vidura not like an uncle, because he was now a very elevated personality. So they received him as a saintly person. So there Prabhupada described that how a reception should be done to a saintly person. Vidura was sumptuously fed, given sufficient rest, and then comfortably seated. Then the talks were exchanged. So first, whenever you meet the saintly person, then the example, we can learn from the example how to receive them. And then verse number 8 to 13 is the conversation between Yudhishthir and Vidura. So 8 to 11 is discussing about Maharaj Yudhishthir's inquiry from Vidura. So before inquiring, he recollects their protection, how Vidura has been protecting Maharaj Yudhishthir and the Pandavas. So your partiality, so he was thinking that as a partiality. When Vidura was protecting, it felt like he is partial to the Pandavas, but he was protecting from the Kauravas. Your partiality, like the wings of the bird, protected us from many calamities. And those calamities like poisoning and arson, So we all know about how the different kind of events that has happened in Mahabharata, where Duryodhan and all basically Kauravas were trying to kill the Pandavas in all the instances, but they were failure at them. And Krishna used Vidura as an instrument to protect them. Next is talking about inquiries about the travel. While traveling, how did you maintain yourself? At which tirthas did you render service? So these are the questions by Maharaj Yudhishthir. Devotees like you are the holy places personified. So this is verse number 10. It's a very important verse. Bhavat vidha bhagavatas tirtha bhuta swayam vibho tirthi kurtvanti tirthani swanta stena gadabhrata. So these devotees are like Vidura. They are holy places personified. So in the purport, it's very important, and we discussed that in the previous sessions. So the purport, it's a very, very, very important purport for all of us to understand that what should we do when we visit the holy places. So the importance of the holy places, of course, the places has its own sanctity and its own importance, but at the same time, there are devotees who are living there, and these places purify actually. We get purified by the presence of the devotees. So the potency of the place is magnified by the presence of devotees who are living in the dham. So you purify the holy places because you carry the Supreme Lord within your heart. So, like Burijan Prabhu explains, like the electricity is available in the house, but we need a plug, a point to access those electricity. So all these electric wires, they are going through the walls, in our home. But in order to access that, we need a plug as a point where we can stick in a plug, then we can access the electricity. So similarly, in order to connect to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, we need to connect to the Lord through His representatives, and His representatives are these personalities, these devotees. Then in the 11th verse, he is talking about the Dwarakavasis. They are always wrapped in service of Lord Krishna, Krishna ka Devata, and you might have seen or heard from them. How are they living happy? Are they living happily? So he's inquiring about the Dwarakavasis. How are they, and all these things he's inquiring. Then in the 12th and 13th verse, Vidura related everything. He answered all those questions which was inquired by Yudhishthir, Maharaj Yudhishthir, except he didn't declare the annihilation of the Yadu dynasty. And the reason was that it will disturb the heart of heart and mind of Yudhishthir Maharaj. So he didn't want to discuss about the calamities. And by that time, Krishna has left the planet, and before Krishna leaving the planet, the Yadus all fought. It was Krishna's plan. By Krishna's plan, the Yadus all fought among themselves and they left the world. But he didn't. When Yudhira met Yudhishthira Maharaj, he didn't discuss about all these things. So the calamities come of their own accord, and a compassionate person does not reveal unpalatable and unbearable events that causes others distress. So, this is a very good and very important lesson for us to learn, that in our exchanges with the devotees, we should not be happy to reveal sad news, or we should not show interest to reveal all this sad news or unfortunate news to others, because that will cause pain in their heart. That's why we don't reveal those things. And we can try it out, if there is some event happens in the congregation, even without our telling to others, the message will reach to other people, and that is how it's like that. But why should we be becoming the instrument? Why should we take the reactions to those? So this is kind of a prajalpa, thinking when we see somebody in trouble and we enjoy that trouble, people going through the suffering, when we enjoy that, this is actually a envious character. People who are envious, they actually enjoy other people's suffering. A devotee is para dukkha dukhi. If there is a person going through trouble, the devotee is not happy in that situation. He basically is empathetic in nature. He experiences the pains of others as his own pains. Therefore, devotee is very careful in not passing on this kind of information, basically engaging in prajalpa, because that disturbs the mind, his own mind, as well as it disturbs the mind of others. So this is a bad teachings of Vidura. Then verse 14 to 17 is Vidura's purpose for staying in Hastinapur. So why did he come? We already discussed this point, that Vidura came for the purpose of helping Dhrtarastra, who was his elder brother. So in the 14th verse, so this is the 14th verse, it is talking about Vidura respectfully treated and stayed there for some time to benefit Dhrtarastra. So that was his purpose. His purpose was to help his elder brother Dhrtarastra. So thus Mahatma Vidura, being treated just like a godly person by his kinsmen, remained there for a certain period just to rectify the mentality of his eldest brother, and in this way bring happiness to all others. So this was his purpose. His purpose was not to come back to Hastinapur to enjoy the kingdom. He had already given that. And he went to the Hastinapur. Went to the pilgrimage when he was insulted by Duryodhana. He went to the pilgrimage for his purification. So why would he come again? So his purpose was to not, come back to this kingdom to enjoy the kingdom. His purpose was to actually help his elder brother Dhrtarastra. So today we'll start with verse number 15. Let's chant the verse. Abhibrahad arya madandam yatavad agakikarisu yavad dadara sudratvam sapadvarsha satam yamaha. As long as Vidura played the part of Shudra, being cursed by Manduka Muni, Aryama officiated at the post of Yamaraj to punish those who committed sinful acts. So this is the storyline behind Vidura. So Vidura was punished by Manduka Muni, and this was, I think, discussed in the very first verse of this chapter. So Manduka Muni, he was being punished by a king, and then he was a pure devotee, and he's a great soul, actually, not pure devotee, but he's a great soul, a great yogi. But in spite of that, he was punished. So he wanted to know why he's being punished. So he goes to Yamaraj. And then Yamaraj found out that he was punished because, at his young age, he was trying to disturb or actually poke an ant. So that was a punishment. So he cursed Yamaraj that you are not a very highly qualified person. You are acting like a Shudra. So you take a birth as a Shudra. So that has been discussed in the purport of, in this particular purport, that what is actually Vidura's position. He was not a Shudra. He was playing a role of Shudra in Hastinapur. He is the son of Shudra, so he was a Sudrani. His mother was, his father was Vyasdev, but his mother was a Sudrani. So that's why he's a son of Shudra. Not son of, but he's basically his mother is a Sudra. So Vidura is born in this particular pastimes of Mahabharata as Sudra, but he is a Mahajan, and that's what Prabhupada is discussing in this purport. So Vidura's position. Vidura, born in the womb of Shudra woman, was forbidden even to be a party of royal heritage along with his brother Dhrtarastra and Pandu. Then how could he occupy the post of a preacher to instruct such learned kings and Kshatriyas as Dhrtarastra and Maharaj Yudhishthira? So, though he is born, he was forbidden earlier by the brothers, his elder brothers, Dhrtarastra and Pandu, to be the part of the royal heritage. And Prabhupada is saying, then how can he actually preach? He take a position of a teacher or a preacher for Dhrtarastra and Maharaj. The first answer is that even though he is accepted that he was a Shudra by birth, because he renowned the world for spiritual enlightenment by the authority of Rishi Maitreya, he was thoroughly educated by him in transcendental knowledge, and he was quite competent to occupy the post of an Acharya or a spiritual preceptor. So this point has been discussed many times, that a devotee is not recognized by his birth. In this particularly in Nectar of Instruction, this point is discussed, that one should not see a devotee a position of, or try to denounce a devotee by saying, oh, your birth is like this or that, you're in a lower family. But we should see that a person by his spiritual qualification. So in case of Vidura, he learned, or he was enlightened by Maitreya Rishi. So he became competent and as an Acharya to occupy the post of an Acharya or a spiritual preceptor. how going through the process of spiritual training. This training was given by Maitreya Rishi. So according to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, anyone who is conversant in transcendental knowledge of the science of Godhead, he must be considered as a Brahmana. Maybe he Brahmana or a Shudra, or householder or sannyasi, is eligible to become spiritual master. So Lord Chaitanya, this is a very famous verse, is saying that anybody, whether it's a Brahmana or a Shudra or a householder or a sannyasi, one who knows the science of Krishna can be considered as a spiritual master. Otherwise, no. Even in the ordinary moral codes maintained by Chanakya Pandit, a great politician and moralist, there is no harm in taking lessons from a person who may be by birth less than a Shudra. So this is according to Chanakya Pandit, that even if your birth is Chandala or Shudra or a lower class, it doesn't matter. That if you are spiritually qualified, then you can become a teacher. This is part one part of the answer. The other part is Vidura was not actually a Shudra. So this is the previous discussion about Vidura. What is his past life? He was to play a part of so-called Shudra for 100 years, being cursed by Manduka Muni. So as we discussed in the earlier sessions about the pastimes of Manduka Muni and Vidura, that he was cursed by Manduka Muni, and he took a birth of as a Shudra in the family of the Kurus. He was the incarnation of Yamaraj, one of the 12 Mahajanas. So there are 12 Mahajanas which is described by Yamaraj himself, and he is one of them. And Mahajana is there, the exalted devotees. So he was one of the incarnation of Yamaraj, one of the 12 Mahajana on the level with such exalted personality as Brahma, Narada, Shiva, Kapila, Bhishma, Prahlad, etc. Being a Maharajana, it is a duty of Yamaraj to preach the cult of devotion to the people of the world, as Narada, Brahma and other Mahajanas do. So this is the part of the preaching what Vidura is doing as a Mahajan. So this particular chapter is teaching that section, that what a Mahajan should do. He should preach. But Yamaraj is always busy in his plutonic kingdom punishing the doers of sinful acts. Yamaraj is deputed by Lord to a particular planet, some hundreds of thousands of miles away from the planet of Earth, to take away the corrupt souls after death and convict them in accordance with their respective sinful activities. Thus, Yamaraj has very little time to take leave from his responsible office of punishing the wrongdoers. There are more wrongdoers than righteous men. Therefore, Yamaraj has to do more work than other demigods who are also authorized agents of the Supreme Lord. So Yamaraj is a very busy person because there are a lot of sinful people, and his job is to punish or reward according to their karma. So he is a very busy person, and he doesn't get times to preach. He doesn't get a break to associate with the devotees. So therefore, by Krishna's arrangement, Manduka Muni punishes him to take birth on this. So this is what will be revealed here. But he wanted to preach the glories of the Lord, and therefore by the will of the Lord, he was cursed by Manduka Muni to come to the world in the incarnation of Vidura and work very hard as a great devotee. So this is what is Lord's plan. His Lord is so merciful, and some devotees who work really hard to satisfy in the governance of the material world. So Yamaraj is actually helping the Lord in the governing this material world, or facilitating. Is one of the facilitator, and his job is to punish. So he has to work very hard, and he doesn't get time to associate with the devotees, or he doesn't get time to preach. So then Lord makes such kind of arrangements. Such a devotee is neither a Shudra nor a Brahmana. He is transcendental to such divisions of mundane society. Just as the personality of God, it assumes his incarnations as hog, but he is neither a hog nor a Brahma. He is above all mundane creatures. The Lord and his different authorized devotees sometimes have to play the role of many lower creatures to claim the conditioned soul. But both the Lord and his pure devotees are always in the transcendental position. So this is a very important point to remember, that all the acharyas whom we come in contact with, all the great devotees whom we come in contact with, we should not see them as normal personalities. They are part of Krishna's plans, and they play different roles. They take different position. They do different activities, and they are actually transcendental in nature, and they come as per Lord's plan. Like Srila Prabhupada was in this world based on the plan of Lord Chaitanya, and Lord Chaitanya's prediction was the Krishna consciousness movement is going to be spread all over the world. So then Lord made a plan, and Srila Prabhupada was given that opportunity to come to this world and go through all the struggles to give Krishna consciousness to all the living entities throughout the world. So similarly, the devotees who are helping Srila Prabhupada, they are also the disciples of Srila Prabhupada. They are not ordinary souls. They are part of Krishna's plan. So we need to see through, when we see them, we need to see through that lens. So the Lord and his different authorized devotees sometimes have to play the role of many lower creatures to claim the conditioned soul. But both the Lord and his pure devotees are always in transcendental position. This has to be remembered. So this is the basic instruction in Bhagavad Gita also. Krishna starts with this basic instruction that we are not this body, we are soul. And the soul is Sachidananda. So sometimes we get stuck that, we are this, because we identify ourselves with the body. And when we identify ourselves with the body, then all the bodily designation comes up, and all the conditioning that is attached to the body, we try to associate ourselves with that. And by doing that, we forget our real position, our real activity, our real duty of life. So these are all the tricks of Maya, and in the later purports we'll see. This point has been discussed thoroughly, that how we forget the trick, and we forget, and then we get entangled in the business, in this different kind of businesses in this material world, and we forget our real purpose of coming to this world. So those who are fortunate, those who are intelligent, they go beyond all these temporary things, and they focus on the right things, because these are all distractions, and it's going to actually pull the living entity down, and it's going to. So this is what was happening with Dhrtarastra. He was stuck, and the important thing is that the sadhus, then they come to rescue us. So in this case, the sadhu is Vidura. Vidura in the form of a devotee. He comes there, and he pulls his brother. He is so compassionate that he comes back to Hastinapur, and he pulls his brother Dhrtarastra out of this mess. So when Yamraj thus incarnated himself as Vidura, his post was officiated by Aryama. Because that post is so important, it cannot be kept empty for 100 years. So somebody has to take that role of Yamaraj. So Aryama, he took that role. So who is Aryama? So Aryama, officiated by Aryama, one of the many sons of Kashyapa and Aditi. The Adityas are the son of Aditi, and there are 12 Adityas. Aryama is one of the 12 Adityas, and therefore it was quite possible for him to take charge of the office of Yamaraj during his 100 years absence in the form of Vidura. So Yamaraj is basically a post. It's not a person. It's a post, and different people will have different personalities will take that. Like other devatas are the post. So similarly, Yamaraj is a post. The conclusion is that Vidura was never a Shudra. He was he was greater than the pure type of Brahmana. He became a pure devotee actually after meeting with Maitreya Rishi. He heard from them and he became a pure devotee. So this is what is a discussion in this verse number 15. Now, unless we have some discussion, we move to the next verse, which is verse number 16. Yudhishthiro labdharajyo drishtva pautram kulandharam bhatram bhir lokapalahir mude paraya shriyam. Having won his kingdom and observed the birth of one grandson competent to continue the noble tradition of his family, Maharaj Yudhishthira reigned peacefully and enjoyed uncommon opulence in cooperation with his younger brothers, who were all expert administrators to the common people. So this verse is talking about Maharaj Yudhishthira's rule. Both Maharaj Yudhishthira and Arjuna were unhappy from the beginning of the battle of Kurukshetra. But even though they were unwilling to kill their own men in the fighting, it had been done so as a matter of duty, for it was planned by the supreme will of Lord Sri Krishna. So, after the battle, Maharaj Yudhishthira was unhappy over such mass killings. Practically, there was none to continue the Kuru dynasty after them. The Pandavas. The only remaining hope was the child in the womb of the daughter-in-law Uttara, and he was also attacked by Ashwatthama, but by the grace of the Lord, the child was saved. So after the settlement of all disturbing conditions and re-establishment of peaceful order of the state, and after seeing the surviving child Parikshit well satisfied, Maharaj Yudhishthira felt some relief as a human being, although he had very little attraction for material happiness, which is always illusory and temporary. So this point is being discussed over here because to contrast that, Maharaj Yudhishthira was not as attached, or he is not attached at all compared to Dhrtarastra. So he was ruling. Basically, he was not interested in the war. He and his brother, both Arjuna and Yudhishthira, both were not interested in fighting the war. But they fought because the Lord wanted. And the Lord wanted Yudhishthira to be established as a king. So on behalf of the Lord, he was actually ruling the kingdom. And then all his family members were dead except Maharaj Parikshit. So he was happy when Parikshit appeared in the scene, basically, and he thought then that the kingdom can go on peacefully after him. So next verse number 17. Evam griyeshu saktanam pramattanam tad ihaya atya kramad avijanatah kala parama dustaraha. Insurmountable means it's a great to overcome. Too great to overcome, actually. This should be T-double-O. Insurmountable means too great to overcome. Eternal time, imperceptibly, means gradual or subtle, overcomes those who are too much attached to family affairs and are always engrossed in their thoughts. So here onwards, the discussion, the main discussion of Vidura. This is the starting point where Vidura is going to actually chastise his brother Dhrtarastra. But before Vidura goes to that point of chastising his brother, the background is being set, and the background is that the time element has been discussed here. So the time is insurmountable. Insurmountable is too much to overcome. Nobody can overcome time. The time is such a thing that it is existing, it is slipping away from all of our hands. Anyone, even if either is a person, a small person or a great personality, nobody can deal with this factor of time. So nobody can overcome time. So this insurmountable eternal time, imperceptibly means it's a very gradually and very subtly. What it does, it's very subtly, it snatches things from the person who are attached to the family affairs and who are always engrossed in their thoughts. So person who are very attached to the material life, the time subtly and gradually takes away everything from them. So how it is done, Prabhupada explains in this purports. So what are the thoughts of attached householders? So this has been also discussed in Bhagavad Gita, and we are going to see that too. So how does a householder thinks? Now, at some point of time when we read this, we'll also see that we also think in this way to some extent, right? And that is why Bhagavatam teaches us that where should we actually focus our thoughts. So that's why all these things are given to gradually wake all of us who are part of in the material world. We live in this material world, and somehow or other the things are designed in such a way that we also think, we think in this terms. So let's see what the thoughts of attached householders are. So they are thinking like, I am now happy. When the situations around us are good, we start thinking like that. I am now happy. I have everything in order. And what are the things in order? My bank balance is quite enough. This is our backup plan. My bank balance is quite enough. And first of all, we are not satisfied by the bank balance, but when the number becomes bigger and bigger, at one point we start saying, oh yeah, my bank balance is quite enough, and these things can save me in this material world. Then the next point is, this is about the us and now our extended family. So it is now I can now give my children enough estate. Estate means all this money, and the bank balance or property. So I can give my children enough estate. I am now successful. So these things make me successful because my bank balance is high. My family will be taken care. So I am a success story. So I am now successful. The poor beggar sannyasi depends on God. So the poor people now they become depend on the God, but they come to beg from me. Now, after learning from Srila Prabhupada, we may not be thinking in this way, but some of the points we may be thinking, my bank balance is high, I can pass on my wealth to my family members and I'm successful. So these thoughts, this thought may not come in our mind, but other thoughts can come, or different kinds of thoughts can also pop up in our mind. The poor beggar sannyasi depends on God, but they come to beg from me. Therefore, I am more than the Supreme God. Now this Prabhupada is, after hearing Prabhupada, reading Prabhupada, this misconception is always taken out, that therefore I am more than Supreme Lord. So this point is discussed in Bhagavad Gita in chapter number 60. So let's see what it is. It's a very important point, and chapter 16 of Bhagavad Gita. So this particular chapter is talking about the demoniac nature, right? This chapter is the divine and the demoniac nature. So the first part of this chapter is discussing about the divine characteristics, but later on these verses, number 13 to 15, is talking about how a demoniac person thinks. Right? That is verse 13 to 15. The demoniac person thinks, so much wealth do I have today. So if you see, compare what is Prabhupada written over here. So this is also talking about the wealth or the bank balance. Excuse me. The demoniac person thinks, so much wealth do I have today, and I will gain more according to my schemes. So somebody who is in the mode of passion, there is a constant thinking going on in terms of money. And you will find this kind of people, they think everything in terms of money. Every instance, all the things are in relation to the money. And the thought process is always to increase the quantity of wealth. And that is considered as success. So much wealth do I have today, and I will gain more according to my scheme. So they constantly plan. So the entire energy of the life goes in planning and getting more and more wealth. It is not bad to attain more wealth, right? But that should not be the center of the focus, right? Or the central focal point of our life. That should not be, the earning money should not be the focal point in anybody's life who are trying to practice spirituality, because it distracts us from our main goal. Our main goal is, as I was hearing Srila Prabhupada the other day, that whatever you do, just keep in front of you. Prabhupada always says that in front of you, these 4 things: Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi. We may have solved so many other problems. Have we solved the problems of Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi? No. So we have not solved the main problem. So this is the main problem, and this needs to be tackled. So of course, having wealth helps us to be peaceful. But if the whole point of the life is just wealth, or gaining wealth, or making schemes to get wealth, then we get distracted from our main purpose of life. So here, this is a tendency of demoniac person. So where he's thinking that I'll get more money according to my scheme. So much is mine now. So much is mine now means in terms of bank balance, in terms of homes, in terms of different kinds of wealth, gold, or whatever, and it will increase in the future more and more. He is my enemy and I have killed him, and my other enemies will also be killed. I am the Lord of everything. I am the enjoyer. We may not be saying these things, I am the Lord of everything. But subtly it is there in our mind. How? Because when we have money, power, we think that we can do anything. Along with the money, that our mentality becomes like that I can do certain things with the help of money. So I am the Lord of everything which I survey, and this could be a subtle point in the mind. So we may not be grossly saying it. I am the enjoyer, I am perfect, powerful and happy. I am the richest man surrounded by aristocratic relatives. Right? There is none so powerful and happy as I am. I shall perform sacrifices, I shall give some charity, and thus I shall rejoice. In this way, such persons are deluded by ignorance. Right? So these are the people who are deluded. This is a delusion, because a time will come, and the time is coming fast, that everything what we have gathered will be taken away. Right? So these things are not going to save us, and this is what the purpose of Vidura is. He has come to tell his brother that you are attached. This is the thoughts, or whatever you are manifesting is a manifestation of an attached person. So cut off all these things, give it off. So these are some of the thoughts which engross the insanely attached householder who is blind to the passing of eternal time. So this is the thing that happens. When we are engrossed in those thoughts, we become blinded by the thing that is slowly passing. What is the thing that is slowly passing? And that is this imperceptibly the time is passing. It's a gradual and subtle. This, behind me where I'm sitting, there's a clock which is giving a sound, tick, tick, tick. It's like, every second. If you carefully hear, you should be able to hear it. So this is a passing of time. Every second it's passing, and what is happening actually when the time is passing actually is getting us closer and closer and closer. Subtly it's getting closer to the end point of our life, right? So then what we should do? So what is this? So first we understand the problem. So this is the actually illusion. So that's what Prabhupada is talking about. What is an illusion? Now this is a fantastic paragraph, and if what we should do is probably cut and paste this particular paragraph, the entire paragraph, and put it somewhere which we can read again and again, maybe till we understand the importance of this particular paragraph. It's a very nice paragraph. I love this. So what is illusion? Prabhupada is saying our duration of life is measured, and no one is able to enhance it even by a second against the scheduled time ordained by the Supreme Will. So our life duration is fixed. It is given at the time of beginning of the birth. And not only the life beginning, the duration, but also with that, whatever we are supposed to get, whatever wealth, because this is all predestined. How it is predestined? Based on our previous karma. So it looks like predestined, but it is not predestined. It's based on the previous karma. It is already decided what is going to happen. Therefore, we see the two places in Bhagavatam. One is spoken by Narad Muni, the other spoken by Prahlad Maharaj, that whatever we have to receive in terms of wealth and in terms of fame, name, all these things is already predestined. So why to put a lot of efforts? Even if you don't put a lot of efforts, the things are going to happen in the same way, because it is already decided. It has been decided. But still we have to act as a matter of duty, but that action should be connected with Krishna. So here the first point is talking about the time which is given to us. Such valuable time, especially for human life, should be cautiously spent because even a second passed away imperceptibly cannot be replaced, even in exchange for thousands of gold coins amassed by hard labor. So the time which goes, you cannot bring that back. Every second of human life is meant for making an ultimate solution to the problems of life, that is repetition of birth and death, and revolving in the cycle of 8,400,000 different species of life. So whatever time is possible, we should be spending that time towards the ultimate solution. What is the ultimate solution? As Prabhupada is saying, Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi. These are the real problems. So working towards eliminating the Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi, that is the ultimate solution. The material body, which is subject to birth and death, disease and old age, is the cause of all suffering of the living beings. Otherwise, the living being is eternal. He is never born, nor does he ever die. Foolish person forgets this problem. So this is how we determine somebody is intelligent or somebody is foolish, right? So Prabhupada clearly saying that foolish person forgets this problem. Now this forgetfulness of these problems is twofold. One is we want to forget the problems, and the second thing is Maya is making us forget. So it is again based on our desire. So our desire is we want to forget this problem. So because we want to forget this problem, then Maya will put us a different kind of coverings. For different persons, it will be a different kinds of coverings that will be given, and that will make that person forget the real problems of life. So the real problem of life is Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi, and person who is covered by Maya, he forgets this real problem, and he doesn't focus on this real problem, but he focuses on so many other problems, this problem, that problem. They do not know at all how to solve this problem. So first of all, people in general, they don't know how to solve the problems. But when a fortunate person will come in contact with some devotees, and then they will really understand, okay, these are the real problems of life. But even after coming in contact with devotees, then if our interest is not in fixing this problem, our interest is something else, then though we may have come in contact with the devotees, though we may have come in contact with the Shastra, but our focus will go on to the other things, other associated things which is there. So like, let's say some devotees are interested in, even though they come to temple, but they are interested in prajalpa. So though they come in contact with the devotees, but their focus will be only on the prajalpa. So these kind of people are the most unfortunate, because they have been given an opportunity, but though they have been given an opportunity, the taste is not there. The taste is not there. So then Krishna will connect them with some kind of devotees who are interested in prajalpa. So this will go on. So then the interest which was actually outside, now it is happening under in the pretext under the in association with the devotees. So when we read Shastra, we have to understand the real purpose of studying these scriptures. And the real purpose of the studying this scripture is to resolve these problems. Otherwise, we are like this person who is completely foolish and will forget, even though we come and we read Shastra, we'll forget the real problems, and we'll get away from this. So we'll not be able to, fulfill the purpose of coming in contact with the devotees, and we'll not be able to fulfill the purpose of the real purpose of life. So therefore, it is very important to read all these purports very, very critically, and and then try to apply as much as possible in our life. So foolish person forgets this problem. They do not know at all how to solve the problems of life, but become engrossed in temporarily family affairs, not knowing that eternal time is passing imperceptibly, gradually and subtle. See, you see all these things, is happening with us day in, day out. Sometimes we get stuck with all these things going on around us, and the time is gradually slipping. So here it is talking about family affairs, but it's not only family affairs. There are so many affairs, and this will keep on going. When Srila Prabhupada met his spiritual master, and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was asking Srila Prabhupada about, this joining ISKCON, and not at that time it was not ISKCON but Gaudiya Math, and then translating books. And Prabhupada said, that people will not hear, and because at that time we were dependent. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, these things will go on. These things will go on. But we need to focus on right things. In the world, there are problems, and these problems are going to go on, whether we participate in it or we don't participate in it. So, being fortunate, E Brahmande Brahmite Kono Bhagyavan Jeev, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying. So, we are somehow or others, we are that Bhagyavan Jiv. We, by Guru and Krishna's mercy, we got this Bhakti Lata bridge. Guru Krishna Prasade Pai Bhakti Lata bridge. So we got this. And so now we have to become intelligent. And, unlike the foolish person who forgets this problem, we have to constantly remember this. That's why I said, this paragraph is extremely important. And, we should keep on reading and reminding us that the time is slipping away. This eternal time is gradually and subtly going from our clutches. It's moving fast actually. So foolish person does forget this problem. They do not know at all how to solve the problem of life, but become engrossed in temporary family affairs, not knowing that eternal time is passing away imperceptibly, gradually and subtle, and that their measured duration of life is diminishing every second without any solution to the big problem, namely repetition of birth, death, disease and old age. This is called illusion. This is called illusion. It's an amazing paragraph written by Srila Prabhupada. So this is illusion which we all are going through. And problems after problems, we cut or we resolve one problem, another problem will immediately manifest. And then we get engrossed in that. But when we are trying to solve these problems, what is really happening is we are just trying to solve all those superficial problems. But this big problem is being neglected. The big problem is the problem of Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi. And this is illusion. And this is going on eternally. Every living being has been going on through this conditioning of illusion. And same was the case of Dhrtarastra. Compared to that illusion, the consciousness of a spiritually awakened person, an awake person. But such illusion cannot work on one who is awake in devotional service of the Lord. Maharaj Yudhishthira Maharaj was, and his brothers, the Pandavas, were all engaged in the service of the Lord Krishna, and they had very little attraction for the illusory happiness of this material world. So that their attraction was Lord. So they were doing the same things, but their attraction was Lord. And because of their connection and attraction towards the Lord, the activities were same, but they were progressing in solving this problem of birth, death, old age and disease. As we have discussed previously, Maharaj Yudhishthira was fixed in the service of the Lord Mukunda, the Lord who can award salvation, and therefore he had no attraction even for such comforts of life as are available in the kingdom of heaven. Because even the happiness obtained on the planet of Brahmaloka is also temporary and illusory. Because the living being is eternal and he can be happy only in the eternal abode of the kingdom of God, Paravyoma, from which no one returns to this region of repeated birth, death, disease and old age. Therefore, any comfort of the life or any material happiness which does not warrant an eternal life is but illusion of the eternal living being. So anything which takes us away from the connection with Krishna, that is actually illusion. One who understands this factually is learned, and such a learned person can sacrifice any amount of material happiness to achieve the desired goal known as Brahma Sukham or absolute happiness. Real transcendentalists are hungry for this happiness, and as a hungry man cannot be made happy by all comforts of life minus foodstuff, so the man hungry for eternal absolute happiness cannot be satisfied by any amount of material happiness. So this kind of two kinds of happiness. One is Brahma Sukham, other is material happiness. Material happiness means we derive happiness through the matter. But actually we are spirit soul. We are completely different from the matter. but we are trying to enjoy through matter, and that is never going to give us happiness. So no matter how much, it's like, a person who is hungry, and if he is hungry and you're trying to garland him or giving him a new cloth, a nice place to sleep, that will not satisfy him because he's hungry, he wants to eat. So similarly, a spiritualist, he's looking for Brahma Sukha, but if he is given all this kind of happiness through matter, he will not be satisfied. So that is what is being discussed here. So the man hungry for eternal absolute happiness cannot be satisfied by any amount of material happiness. Therefore, the instructions described in this verse cannot be applied to Maharaj Yudhishthira or his brothers and mothers. It was meant for a person like Dhrtarastra, for whom Vidura came especially to impart lessons. So this time concept, which has been discussed over here, because time, the whole translation is talking about time, that this time, which is very great to overcome, nobody can actually overcome time. So this eternal time is gradually and subtly, it is overcoming somebody who is too attached to family affairs, somebody who is attached to material things and always thinking about the family affairs or always engrossed in the matter. For them, this time is like a silent killer. We can call it as a silent killer, which is very, very hard to overcome. So this thing is not applicable to Maharaj Yudhishthira and his brothers. This is applicable to Dhrtarastra because he was attached to his kingdom, his family, his sons, and all these things. Right? So it is applicable to him, not to Maharaj Yudhishthira. The next section is verse 18 to 28, which discusses about Vidura chastises Dhrtarastra. If you have any discussion so far, please let me know. Otherwise, we can continue our discussion. Okay. Vidura chastises Dhrtarastra. Vidurastad abhipreyata Dhritarastram abasata rajan nigram yatam snigram pashyedam bhayam agatam. Mahatma Vidur knew all this, and therefore he addressed Dhritarashtra saying, "My dear king, please get out of here immediately. Do not delay. Just see how fear has overtaken you." So now in this section is Vidura is going to chastise his brother. He's chastised his brother Dhritarashtra, though he is elder, but they had a good relationship. Now if you see, Yudhishthira is equally capable of instructing Dhritarashtra, but he is not doing it. And the reason is because he feels that, because of him, their son has to die. So he doesn't want his uncle, elderly uncle, to be chastised like that. Or he wanted to actually show some kind of concern, and he wanted to help him to get through the loss. So therefore, it was very difficult for Yudhishthira to actually instruct Dhritarashtra like this. But he is at that platform where he can do it, but he won't do it in this way. But Vidura can do it, because Vidura, he was his younger brother, and all the times actually in the past we see that in the matter of some kind of concerns while ruling the kingdom, Dhritarashtra used to ask or take advice of Vidura, though he may not follow many times. But he used to ask Vidura, and he would listen to him. So similarly, Vidura thought that it is important for him to help his brother out. Therefore, he comes. So Mahatma Vidura knew all this, and therefore he addressed Dhritarashtra saying, "My dear king." Rajan is saying is a king. Is addressing him as Raja. "Please get out of here immediately." Yeah. Do not delay. Just see how fear has overtaken you. Death cares for no one. That's the first point Prabhupada is saying. The cruel death cares for no one, be he Dhritarashtra or even Maharaj Yudhishthira. Therefore, spiritual instructions as was given to old Dhritarashtra was equally applicable to younger Maharaj Yudhishthira and equally applicable to all of us. Because these instructions are very important for our devotional practice. Because sometimes we get stuck in the things going on around us in the material world. So reading these verses, the instructions given in the purport by Srila Prabhupada, this is sometimes eye-opener, for all of us. Therefore, we should read all this from time to time. So cruel death cares for no one, but be he Dhritarashtra or even Maharaj Yudhishthira. Therefore, spiritual instruction is given to old Dhritarashtra was equally applicable to younger Maharaj Yudhishthira. As a matter of fact, everyone in the royal palace, including the king and his brother and mother, was raptly attending the lecture. So this was not something which was spoken in private. Everybody was hearing from Vidura. But it was known to Vidura that his instructions were especially meant for Dhritarashtra, who was too materialistic. So he came to save his brother. So his instruction he was giving, but it was applicable to everybody, and therefore everybody was listening there. Similarly, after thousands of years, this is applicable to all of us. So we should therefore read this very carefully. Rajan, the word Rajan is especially addressed to Dhritarashtra significantly. Dhritarashtra was the eldest son of his father, and therefore according to the law he was to be installed on the throne of Hastinapur. But because he was blind from birth, he was disqualified from his rightful claim. But he could not forget the bereavement, and his disappointment was somewhat compensated after the death of Pandu, his younger brother. His younger brother left him behind some minor children. So these are the Pandavas, and the Dhritarashtra became the natural guardian of them. But at heart he wanted to become the factual king and hand the kingdom over to his sons headed by Duryodhana. So this was his plan. He was supposed to be the king, but because of he was blind, so he didn't get the kingdom, and his brother got that kingdom. But Pandu was not interested. So after ruling for a few years, he wanted to live a life of ascetic. So he went back to the forest, and on behalf of Pandu, Dhritarashtra was ruling the kingdom. Then what happened? That after the death of Pandu, Dhritarashtra became the guardian of the Pandavas. But Yudhishthira was elder to Duryodhana. So technically Yudhishthira would get the kingdom. But Dhritarashtra's plan was to give the kingdom to his own son. So that was his plan. With all these imperial ambitions, Dhritarashtra wanted to become a king, and he contrived all sorts of intrigues in consultation with his brother-in-law Sakuni. But everything failed by the will of the Lord. And at the last stage, even after losing everything, the men and the money, he wanted to remain as king, being the eldest uncle of Maharaj Yudhishthira. Maharaj Yudhishthira, as a matter of duty, maintained Dhritarashtra in royal honor, and Dhritarashtra was happy passing away his numbered days in illusion of being a king or the royal uncle of his king Yudhishthira. So we can see, how the attached person, thinks. So Vidura, as a saint, and as a duty-bound, affectionate youngest brother of Dhrtarastra, wanted to awaken Dhrtarastra from his slumber of disease and old age. So practically, like 90% of the life of Dhrtarastra was gone, and he was still attached. So Prabhupada says, in the purport later on, you will see, Prabhupada says that, nowadays we see all these politicians, in the later age, they are still attached. And so much so that they don't want to give their kingdom. So this is what we can see, what is going on in the contemporary world. They want to rule to the last end, end of the life, basically. Vidura therefore sarcastically addressed Dhrtarastra as the king, which he was actually not. Therefore he was asking him, he's telling him he's a king. So this detachment is very important, actually, because see, it's very, very subtle thing, even in devotee life, it is very subtle. We want to control. Basically, it's a controller attitude. We want to control things around us. So in order to control, we have to have the power, so have some position, either in terms of this. So this mentality of controlling is there within all of us, because this is what we come to this material world for. So this stays with us for a long period of time, unless we give it up, forcefully, or some situation comes and we have to give it up. So that's not good. Like in this case, in the Dhrtarastra's case, we see that it was kind of forced. All his sons were dead, and still he wants everything was gone from him, practically, men and money. But still he wants to sit there and enjoy the kingdom. But in devotional life also, sometimes it may happen that we're attached to things and we don't want to give up. It is very difficult for those people too, because they think that, okay, this is a way we try to serve the Lord. Of course, they'll, material world, will be presented with the Maya, basically will present us with many kind of options to prove our point that, okay, this is in service of Krishna. Therefore, we should have at least few good friends, who can tell us what is actually, who can tell us, what is good for us actually, spiritually, and for long term, or we can tell us that are we attached or not, attached to certain things, certain positions, certain, certain kind of situations, So here the situation for Dhrtarastra, he was attached to the position of a king. So similarly, something can be there in our life where we are attached to something. But if we have good friends who can tell us, who can, like here, Vidura is trying to help Dhrtarastra. But if we have some good friends in Krishna consciousness and can tell us, okay, you are attached to this, then they can open our eyes. Otherwise, it is difficult for us to know, unless we are like, very pure devotees, which we are not. So therefore, we need help of devotees to tell us, okay, you are attached, you are going through this, kindly get out of it. So that is how devotees help each other. So Vidura therefore sarcastically addressed Dhrtarastra as the king, which he was actually not. Everyone is a servant of eternal time, and therefore no one can be king in this material world. King means the person who can order. The celebrated English king wanted to order time and tide, but the time and tide refused to obey his order. Therefore, one is a false king in the material world, and Dhrtarastra was particularly reminded of this false position and of the factual fearful happening which had already approached him at that time. So he was very close to death actually. So therefore, Vidura comes and awakens him. Vidura asked him to get out immediately if he had wanted to be saved from the fearful situation which was approaching him fast. So fearful situation is a situation of death. He did not ask Maharaj Yudhishthira in that way because he knew that the king, like Maharaj Yudhishthira, is aware of all the fearful situation of this flimsy world and would take care of himself in due course, even though Vidura might not be present at that time. So, our Maharaj Yudhishthira was confident that he is going to figure out a way. So therefore, we see that this Varnashram system, had all this different, sections. Like first is Brahmachari, then Grihastha, then Vanaprastha. Vanaprastha is a gradual preparation. And Sannyas means completely giving up. So this kind of segregations were there, where persons were gradually in different ashrams, were helped to renounce internally as well as externally, gradually externally, but earlier it is internally. And this renunciation has to happen. Otherwise, when we are attached, we have to come back. We will not be able to fulfill the real goal of life. So, continuing with the next verse. Pratikriyana ye yasyeha kutaschit karhachit prabho sa esha bhagavan kala sarvesham nah samagataha. The frightful situation cannot be remedied by any person in this material world. My Lord, it is the Supreme Personality of Godhead as eternal time, Kala, that has approached us all. So this point is that this situation cannot be fixed by any person, because this is basically controlled by the time is controlled by Lord, and it has that Lord has approaching to us the Kala. The Lord in terms of Kala is actually approaching all of us. So it is very difficult to take shelter of any other person other than the Supreme Lord. So no remedies to the sufferings. There is no superior power which can check the cruel hands of death. So these sufferings are there, and it is being there and applicable to everyone. Nobody can overcome this. There is no remedy to this. There is no fix to it. The only fix is taking shelter of the Supreme Lord, because He is the source of that Kala. And because He is the source, then He has the solution to that Kala also. So therefore He is the shelter. So there is no superior power which can check the cruel hands of death. No one wants to die, however acute the source of bodily suffering may be. Even in the days of so-called scientific advancement of knowledge, there is no remedial measure either for old age or for death. So, science has advanced so much. There's so much details which we know, which we used to know earlier. Compared to that, there's a tremendous advancement. But there is no solution, or there is no remedy to this old age, and there is no remedy to this death. All this cosmetic industry and all the wealth, which is spent towards removing this one problem, which is old age, and there's another problem, which is death. The disease. Billions of dollars are spent. Now this, COVID was there, and then COVID-19, and now there's a different strains of that. So there maybe in future there's another strain comes up, or another mutation happens, for which there's another vaccine that needs to come out. So this will keep on going. This will keep on going. We fix one, other will prop up. We fix one other one, that another one will come up. So this will keep on going. So old age, very nicely Prabhupada said, old age is the notice of the arrival of death served by cruel time. So this is the first notice. The court sends different notices. First notice, second notice, third notice. So similarly, old age is the notice of the arrival of death served by cruel time. So when we are getting old, this is we should start considering, okay, the notices have started being given to us by the Supreme Lord, and no one can refuse to accept either summon calls or the supreme judgment of eternal time. So we cannot even refuse it. These notices are presented to us and we cannot refuse to take that notice. We can deceive ourselves. How we can deceive ourselves? We can deceive ourselves. This is called as self-deception. Self-deception means we deceive ourselves by presenting ourselves with idea which makes us think that this is not existing. So this is called as self-deception. So we can do a self-deception by sometimes we do some cosmetic surgery, or we change the skin, or tone of the skin, or do different things to look younger and younger, but actually we are getting old internally, and you cannot change that. Superficially you may change the texture of the skins, or you may fix certain part of your body. You may be able to replace the organs, get organs from other person, and do many other such kind of things. But actually we are aging, and when we are aging, ultimately the old age leads to death. So these are things that cannot be changed. This is the law of the nature, and the law of the nature cannot be beaten. So it can be beaten. The solution is given here, but how it can be beaten? It can be beaten in a different way, by following the scriptures, the instruction which is given in the scripture. So this is explained before Dhrtarastra because he might ask Vidura to find out some remedial measure for the imminent fearful situation, as he had ordered many times before. Before ordering, however, Vidura informed Dhrtarastra there was no remedial measure by anyone or from any source in the material world. So because whenever there was an issue earlier, Dhrtarastra would ask for solution. So knowing that Dhrtarastra is going to ask Vidura for some kind of solution, Vidura told him that there is no solution for this, there is no remedial measure for this, indicating, Vidura is indicating to us also, he is telling us that there is no solution to this problem of birth, death, old age and disease. Nobody can solve it. So this is also instruction to us. And because there is no such thing in the material world, death is identical with Supreme Personality of Godhead, and it is said to be said by the Lord himself in the Bhagavad Gita 10.34. In 10.34, Krishna is saying, what is saying? Mrityu sarva harascha aham. So let's see. 10. Mrityu sarva haraschaham. This 10th chapter is talking about the glories. I am all devouring death. And basically he is saying that at the time of death, sarva means everything. Haras means I take away. So he takes away everything from us at the time of death. That's why death is such a painful situation. Why it is such a painful situation? Because entire life we work so hard to get everything. We work really hard, all of us. If we think about it, we work so hard to collect things, or hoard things. Basically not collect, we hoard. We keep things more than our necessity. So this is hoarding mentality, and then we hoard these things, and and we think this as our asset. And the more asset we have, the more attached we are, the more difficulty we have at that time of death, because it's going to be more painful. Therefore there is a process of renunciation. Mahaprabhur Bhakta Ganer Vairagya Pradhan. So in Chaitanya Charitamrita it is there that the Mahaprabhu's devotees, among the Mahaprabhu's devotees, the best quality is the most important quality is Vairagya Pradhan, renunciation. Why renunciation? Renunciation means detachment. So detachment from this material world, it is Pradhan, it is supermost. So among the devotees, this is the supermost quality of the devotees of Mahaprabhu. So here, Vidura is trying to inform that there is no remedy for this, the time. The Lord comes as a time, and there is no remedy for this in this material world. Death cannot be checked. Death cannot be checked by anyone or from any source within this material world. You cannot beat this particular thing, which is death. Hiranyakashipu wanted to be immortal and underwent a severe type of penance by which the whole universe trembled. And Brahma himself approached him to dissuade Hiranyakashipu from such severe type of penance. Hiranyakashipu asked Brahma to award him a blessing of immortality, but Brahma said that he himself was subject to death, even in the topmost planet. So how could he be awarded with this benediction of immortality? So there is death. So there is death even in the topmost planet of this universe, and what to speak of other planets, which are far, far inferior in quality to Brahmaloka, the residing planet of Brahma. Wherever there is influence of eternal time, there is a set of tribulation, namely birth, death, old age, and disease, and all of them are invincible. We cannot overcome this problem. In short, that is what Vidura is saying, and that is what Krishna is saying. All the scriptures are saying, and this is the reasons for dukkha. Krishna is saying in Bhagavad Gita, Janma Mrityu Jara Vardi Dukkha Dosha Anudarshanam. These are the main reasons for dukkha, and nobody can overcome it, no matter how hard we try. The only solution is getting out of the cycle of birth and death if we want to overcome this problem, or else we continue in this cycle of birth and death. Verse number 20. Yena chaiva bhipmano yam prane priyatame api Jnana sadhyo viyuknitya kimutan utanya dhyana adibihi. Whoever is under the influence of Supreme Kala, eternal time, must surrender his most dear life, and what to speak of other links such as wealth, honor, children, land, and home. So when we are under the influence of time, we have to we have to surrender our most dear life. Basically, we have to give our life. So what to speak of other things? It means all the other things will also go away. That is, such as wealth, honor, children, land, and home. So this is the situation which is being discussed. So Yudhira, is bringing all these points. Now sometimes we think why we are talking about death and all these things, because these are the things that are going to happen to us, to Dhrtarastra and everybody. So this must be discussed actually. When we go for vacation, or we go, even if we go to work, or everything which we do, we have plans, right? Isn't it? We make plans. Suppose we're going to go to some wedding in India, or some yatra, or some family occasion, maybe in US or to some. So we make a whole list of plans. We pack our clothes, we buy tickets. If we are going from one place to another by car, then we fill up the gas. We carry all the snacks. We carry all the plates and spoons so that we can eat on the way. So we plan. Basically, we plan. So this particular event, the death which is going to come to everybody, must be planned. So the scriptures tell us that okay, you are planning for other things. For this journey also you have to plan. And if we don't plan, then what happens? There will be a sudden jerk. Because without our knowing also, this time is passing. So based on the end point which has been already decided for all of us, the end point is there. The end point, someday it will come. We don't know when, but someday that end point is going to come. But if we are prepared, then we are not shocked. So the goal of Bhagavatam, goal of study of Bhagavatam is to read all these things and understand that, this place is a temporary place. My family, my children, my job, whatever associated with me is all temporary. And one day it is going to go away. Right? So when we have this mindset, then we are not attached to the temporary material things. So then what should we be attached to? We should be attached to Krishna. So how do we attach our family members with Krishna? We see them as devotees of Krishna. So we can be attached with them, but we can be attached with them as a devotee of Krishna, not as something my property. So that is when we think it is for my property, it's my property, my enjoyment, then it is something material. But if we connect whatever has been given to us, even if it is a material thing, given to us or provided to us by Krishna, and we think that this is given to us by Krishna and it can be used for Krishna's service, then that is also an attachment, but that is a spiritual attachment because it has been connected with Krishna. So then we use the same things but in service to Krishna instead of our own attachment, and that way the detachment automatically occurs. So then when we are prepared that okay, this is Krishna's property and one day this is not my property. Like a bank teller, the bank teller has thousands of dollars and he has been counting thousands of dollars every day, but that person is not attached because he doesn't think that this money is mine. This money is bank's money. So then though he is sitting and he is counting the money and he can take the money, but he doesn't do that, because he thinks that it is not mine. Right? So similarly, we see the things around us connect with Krishna. Starvar Jangam na dekhe tar murti. Chaitanya Charitamrita is given that a devotee of the Lord, he sees everything in the Lord, in the material world, but he doesn't see as the things as his own, for his own enjoyment. He sees them in connection with Krishna. And because he sees that those things in the material world in connection with Krishna, he is there in this world. Though he is there in this world, he sees everything in this world, but he is completely detached. He is completely detached. So this is how a devotee, though he is in this world, remains detached. And when he remains detached, he is not affected when things are snatched away from him by the Lord himself at the time of death. The mrityu sarva haraschaham. This happens even to a devotee actually. This happened to the devotees. Even great devotees has to go through this. Krishna will take everything away from the great devotees as well as from the materialists. But because he is aware of the situation that these things doesn't belong to him, he is not affected. He is not going through that pain. Rather, his focus is on Krishna while leaving the body. So this is what he is going through. So the effect of Kala Sarpa. Kala Sarpa is, Kala means time, Sarpa means like a serpent. So the time is considered as a snake, which the snake eats the frog or whatever kind of animals or whatever insects or whatever it is eating, rats and all those things. So slowly it is eating. The time is similarly is like a snake. So that's why Kala is compared to snake. So So here Prabhupada gives example, a great Indian scientist busy in the plan making business. So here Prabhupada is referring, he has not given the name, but this scientist is really a great scientist he's talking about is Dr. Homi Bhabha. You might have heard about this name. So he's he's equivalent of Indian Oppenheimer. So he was a great scientist anyway. A great Indian scientist busy in plan making business was suddenly called by invincible eternal time while going to attend a very important meeting of the planning commission, and he had to surrender his life. He surrendered his life, wife, children, house, land, wealth, etc. So he had to give up in one shot. He was a big scientist, but he was going to attend a planning commission meeting, and then there was a plane crash and everything he lost. He died also, right? So during the political upsurge in India and its division into Pakistan and Hindustan, so many rich and influential Indians had to surrender life, property, and honor due to the influence of time. And there are hundreds and thousands of examples like that in all over the world, all over the universe, which are all effect of the influence of time. So these incidences are happening in this material world, and that is all carried out by the time. So these are time elements. Unless the time element is there, the karma will not manifest. See, in order for the karma to manifest, the time is required. Like, when we cook something, so let's say you're cooking some khichdi. So in order for the khichdi to be cooked, you put water and then you put dal and rice and all the masalas. But in order that to cook nicely, then what you need a ladle. So a stirrer, basically. You need a stirrer. So that ladle is used to stir the whole thing. And when you stir the whole thing, the heat is evenly spreaded and the khichdi is cooked nicely. Right? So similarly, that the ladle or the thing which stirs the whole thing is the time. So time is required. Right? The time is required for karma to manifest. So for example, somebody has to go through something, which is effect of the karma. For example, food has to digest. So we eat the food goes in the stomach and the digestion process starts, So the time has to pass for the digestion to happen, right? So that's why the time is such an important thing, because without the time, if the time is missing, then the things will not move forward. The karma will not manifest. So the time has to pass. Therefore, the conclusion is that there is no powerful living being within the universe who can overcome the influence of time. Means everybody has to go through this in the energy of time. Everybody has to go through this. Many poets have written verses lamenting the influence of time. Many devastations have taken place over the universe due to the influence of time, and no one could check them by any means. So this is not possible for anybody to check. This must happen. This must go on. Even in our daily life, so many things come and go in which we have no hands. Right? So all of us, if you think, we all always want good things happening in our life. But is it possible that every time good thing happens? No. Sometimes good things happen, sometimes bad thing happens. Sometimes we do something, even if you have not done anything, things happen in our life. Somebody has done something and then that has affected us. Right? So these things will go on. In our daily life also, we see that sometimes we don't have any or have no hand in doing things, but we have to go through the sufferings. So that's why Prabhupada is saying, in our daily life, so many things come and go in which we have no hands, but we have to suffer or tolerate them without remedial measures. Sometimes we have to tolerate. right? That is the result of time, right? That is a result of time. So anyway, so these are the discussions that are related to the time. In the next verse, Prabhupada talks about Maharaj, sorry, Vidura actually is continuing a discussion. Pritra brate shuhit putra hataste vigatam dvayam atmascha jaraya grasta paragesham upasase. Your father, so who is this? Vidura is talking about Dhrtarastra. Your father, brothers, well-wishers and son are all dead and passed away. You yourself have expended means spent, the major portion of your life. Your body is now overtaken by invalidity and you are living in the home of another. So, though Dhritarashtra was a king, or he was given the respect of king, but actually the king was Maharaj Yudhishthira, because he won the war. But though he was respecting it, actually it was Maharaj Yudhishthira was the king. So that's why he's saying that you are living in the home of another. So Prabhupada says how influence of Maya makes us forgetful of reality. So this is what he forgot about this. Dhritarashtra forgot about what is going on in his life, and because he is forgetful of that, he is not able to think properly. And how does this kind of thing happen to us? That is because of the influence of Maya. So Prabhupada says in the purport, the king is reminded of his precarious condition influenced by cruel time. And by his past experience, he could have been more intelligent to see what is going to happen in his own life. His father, Vichitravirya, died long ago, when he and his younger brother were all little children. And it was due to this care, the care of and kindness of Bhishma Dev, that they were properly brought up. Then again his brother Pandu also died also. Then in the battlefield of Kurukshetra, his 100 sons and his grandsons all died, along with all other well-wishers like Bhishma Dev, Dronacharya, Karna, and many other kings and friends. So he had lost all men and money, and now he was living at the mercy of his nephew, whom he had put into troubles of various types. And despite all this reverses, he thought that he would prolong his life more and more. So this is the misconception, all the living entities have. That first of all, we see death all around, and this was a question asked to Maharaj Yudhishthira. What is the most amazing thing by the Yaksha? And Maharaj Yudhishthira said that ahani bhutani, people see death all over the place, going all the time. But they think, that nothing is going to happen to me. So this is the most amazing thing. And it is true for us also, because actually we are eternal. So because we are eternal, we don't think that, death is going to catch us, or we are ever going to die. So here, this first paragraph is talking about that how Maya makes us forget of the reality. The reality is that death is coming closer day by day. Every day passing means we are getting one day closer to death. So in case of Dhritarashtra, that all his relatives, his sons, and all his close allies, they all died in the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Yet Dhritarashtra is not thinking in those terms. Dhritarashtra is thinking that I am going to live more, and he's trying to prolong his life. And he's not thinking about what is going to come next. So, and despite all these reverses, he thought that he could prolong his life more and more. And this is this general tendency of all the living entities. somebody who are unfortunate and doesn't come in contact with the spirituality, and they are somehow or other stuck in this world, and they are retired and just sitting in home and doing what actually, if they are not connected or attaching them to spiritual things, because they have not done in their entire life, there is no taste. So the conception that when I'm going to get older, I'll take to spiritual life is completely bogus, because we don't have taste at that point of time. Some of us who have taken spirituality in the later point of life, for them also it is very difficult, unless we constantly keep in touch with the spiritual programs which Prabhupada has given us. It's very, very difficult for us. The Maya energy is so strong that it easily makes us forget the real purpose of life. And if you think that after we become retired, we are going to become more spiritual, because at that time our desires will be all over. No, it's not. It doesn't work that way. The desire become more stronger actually, and we become more frustrated because our desires won't be fulfilled because of our health conditions, and old age will not be able to fulfill the desire. So people get more frustrated, and that's why people become more angry at that point of time. So, but in spite of that, they think that people dying around us, they may be thinking, oh, this death is happening, but it will not happen to me. My life will be fine. So these are all the illusions. And this needs to be discussed. So Bhagavatam, especially purport of Srila Prabhupada, they very clearly and very nicely bring up this point. And these are very thoughtful points actually, which helps us to renounce. Now, this situation is there, and what does the duty of a sadhu? So this whole section is, in a way, it is Vidura actually chastising Dhrtarastra. That is one way of looking. So Vidura is a devotee, right? And also is a sadhu, of course, because he went through all these pilgrimages, purified himself, he learned, he is spiritually realized in association with Maitreya Rishi. He hears about different pastimes of the Lord, he hears about the creation, and he hears about all these things in detail. So he is now a spiritually realized person. So he is a pure devotee now, he is a sadhu. Of course, he is a Mahajan. His original position is a Mahajan. So this whole section can be also seen as the association, what we need to learn in association of a sadhu. Also, we can see it as what are the duties of a sadhu. Okay? So once somebody becomes a purified personality, a purified soul, then they need to pass along this message, or they need to help others who are stuck in this material world to get out of this material world. Therefore, Vidura, he was comfortable in his pilgrimage. He was going through that pilgrimage, he was comfortable. But therefore he takes trouble. He takes trouble to come to Hastinapur. And the whole purpose of this Vidura, the sadhu, is to help his elder brother to get out of this. So this is a duty of a sadhu. So Vidura wanted to point out to Dhrtarastra that everyone has to protect himself by his action and the grace of the Lord. So this is a duty of every living entity. They have to see, in fact, excuse me, Prahlad Maharaj says that Vidu Swartha Gatehi Vishnu. So people are not swarthi enough. Swa-artha means they are not looking for benefiting themselves. They are not normally swarthi means is looking for their own benefit, is normally bad. But in this case it is good. One has to become Swarthi means he has to think about himself. In what terms? They have to think about themselves for spiritual elevation. We need to uplift ourselves spiritually. So Vidura is wanted to point out Dhrtarastra that everyone has to protect himself by his actions and the grace of the Lord. One has to execute his duty faithfully depending for the result on the supreme authority. No friend, no children, no father, no brother, no state, and no one else can protect a person who is not protected by the Supreme Lord. So he's trying to fit in his mind that, the Lord is our only protector. Right? And Krishna also says, right? Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 5:29, Bhoktaram yagya tapasam sarvaloke maheshwaram suhidam sarva bhutanam gyatva mam shanti nischit. He is our only protector, who is our only suhid, who is our only well-wisher. And we seek his protection. We should actively seek his protection. And when we know that he is our only well-wisher, only benefactor, when we know that Krishna is Krishna's position, then we attain peace. So therefore he is saying that one should therefore seek protection of the Supreme Lord. For human form of life is meant for seeking that protection. So in human form of life only it is possible to get this knowledge. First of all, it's possible to get this knowledge, and second of all, that after getting this knowledge, we can apply this. So this is only possible in the human form of life. He was warned of his precarious condition more and more by the following words. So this will continue. So this chastisement of Dhrtarastra will continue, and this is very, very important. So we are going very slowly and trying to understand that how we can apply these things in our life. So with this I'll stop here. It's 9 o'clock. Unless any discussion, we will okay. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Right. So, this is very instructive.
Sorry, I could not hear.
I was saying that it was very instructive verses from the Dhrtarastra.
Yes. These are very nice and very instructive verses. Absolutely, yeah. And that's why we are trying to go into detail and see where it is applicable. In fact, everything is applicable to us, but all the purports are fantastic by Srila Prabhupada. So yeah. Any thoughts? Any other points you would like to discuss?
No, Prabhu, not. I'm good, Prabhu.
Okay. Okay, then we'll stop here. Yes, Prabhu, you have something? Ram Mukund Prabhu?
No, nothing, Prabhu. I just about to say Hare Krishna.
Yes. All right, Prabhu. So, Dhrtarastra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Sri Vidurji ki jai. Sri Yudhishthir Maharaj ki jai. Gaur Premanande Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.